Ah, yes, The Frighteners, one of the most genuinely crappy films I have ever witnessed. It never made any of my lists because it's not even outstandingly bad. It doesn't make you angry or shake your fists at any part of it. It's basically just a bad film. In fact, it's more fascinating just thinking about how many missteps this movie took. What we have here is a horror comedy by Peter Jackson that is in no way funny or scary. The Frighteners was released in 1996 alongside Independence Day, and the competition alone just killed it. So even if people would have thought this was bad at the time, it didn't matter because nobody saw the damn thing. Everyone was watching Will Smith punch aliens in the face. And so it eventually faded into obscurity. Today, it actually fares pretty well, at least as far as the online ratings are concerned. As of this recording, it holds a 7.1 on IMDb, and I haven't really heard that many bad things about it from people who have actually seen it, but it still remains one of the most problematic films I've ever witnessed. This movie has in it some of the strangest story decisions you can imagine, and it has more consistency issues and logical problems than I can even count. We start out in the middle of a ghost attacking a woman we haven't even met yet, and this thing is damn persistent. It chases her through every area of the house until an old lady comes out with a shotgun and proclaims, "The wicked shall be punished," before shooting it. I'm not sure what she was hoping to accomplish with that. It's not like you can kill the thing with a gun. Look, it doesn't even care. It just flies at the camera and shows us the title screen. The whole opening was just one big fake out, and boy howdy, get used to that. But we'll get to that later. Our principal character is named Frank Bannister, and he has created a business around being a psychic investigator. He tries to sell his services to everyone, from grieving people at a funeral to someone whose fence he just drove through. Lucky for that guy, though, because his house actually turns out to be haunted. Bannister shows up to perform the exorcism or whatever it is, but it's eventually revealed that this is all a con. Frank Bannister has the ability to see and hear ghosts, and he has convinced a small handful of them to work for him. He sends them out to potential clients' house to spook up the place, and then people call his number off of one of the business cards he conveniently gave them just a few hours before. He shows up, does the exorcism, and they cut him a paycheck. That is a great idea for a film. It's kind of like a reverse Ghostbusters. What an interesting con job, as well as an interesting take on the ghost story in general. Watching Bannister do his thing is a lot of fun because they're very smart about this. We only ever see him bilking jerks and snooty rich people, and Frank Bannister is an awesome character. You know, if they had made this whole movie about this premise, I might actually have liked it. But don't be fooled. The con job they set up here has absolutely nothing to do with what this movie is about. The concept is dropped shortly after this, and replaced with something that is just all fucking over the place. After this phony exorcism, we find the jerk whose fence Bannister rammed into was killed shortly after by a supposed heart attack, and now he's just a little more inclined to believe that Bannister can talk to the dead because, well, he's dead. He wants to talk to his wife Lucy, and so Frank now has to babysit him, and the two take a stroll through the cemetery to get to his funeral.
What in the hell is going on out here? Get back in your grave!
Ah, son of a...
Holy Jesus! Frank Bannister! What the hell are you doing in my graveyard? You have been told to stay away! Sound off like you've got up here!
What? The hell kind of cameo is that? Could there be any more unrelated a reference to a horror movie than Full Metal Jacket? I mean, Full Metal Jacket was a great movie, don't say I never said anything nice about you, but answer me this. What does the drill sergeant from Full Metal Jacket have to do with any of the following things? Horror movies? Comedies? Ghost movies? This movie? Michael J. Fox? I don't get it. Where does this fit? What relevance does this cameo have to anything? This is the strangest and most out-of-place cameo appearance I have ever seen. I can't, my mind is going numb. I have to move on. From this point on, the film just gets so far away from what the premise of conning people with ghosts was, and everything just goes all over the damn place. Here's everything you need to know. The woman that we saw in the opening that was running away from the ghost, her name is Patricia. When she was younger, she had a boyfriend named Johnny Bartlett who was a psychopath, and the two of them shot up a hospital together. Bartlett was sent to the electric chair, but Patricia now lives with her mother, who keeps her locked in the house, and we're all led to believe that something isn't quite right with this woman or this situation. As for Frank, he was working on building a house with his wife Deborah years ago, but the two of them got in an argument while driving, and the car went off the road. Frank woke up shortly after that, having no memory of what took place, but Deborah was found with the number 13 carved into her forehead, and strangely enough, one of Bannister's retractable blades went missing after that, and so everyone in the town kind of suspects that he might have had something to do with her death. And it was after that moment that Bannister first started seeing ghosts. All of this information is doled out in random parts of the film, and at first, it's really difficult to see how it all connects. But once we figure out how it all connects, it's bullshit. Just give me time, I'll get there. Eventually, Bannister starts seeing death itself and attempts to save people from it, but everyone around him thinks he's just nuts and killing these people himself. This is where the movie really starts to go off the rails and has nothing to do with the premise that was established in the beginning. He eventually gets falsely accused of a few murders that Death actually committed. Gone is the humorous situation of a con man using ghosts to his advantage, and it's replaced by a jumbled whodunit that never makes any sense whatsoever. Oh, and there's a special FBI agent named Dammers who comes into the film out of nowhere to interrogate Bannister. This character has no business being in the film. He's a generic weirdo, although played very well by Jeffrey Combs, and he adds nothing to the film but more confusion. Who is this guy? Why is he the way he is? Does it matter? Eventually, this guy manages to convince Frank that he's just a lunatic who made up the Death character as a way to justify murdering people. But Lucy eventually convinces him otherwise before she is targeted by Death. The Death figure is targeting people by carving numbers into their foreheads just like Frank's wife, which is pointless because no one can actually see this but the ghosts. Bannister has no way of protecting Lucy from this attack, but he does the best he can with the help of his ghost friends. Oh, look, it turns out that ghosts can die. Okay. That's another thing about this movie. The way the ghosts work is incredibly inconsistent. Sometimes you can physically hurt them, and sometimes you can't. Sometimes they're solid enough to get hit by trucks, and sometimes they fall through the floor. Sometimes they can throw up even though they don't eat. It makes no logical sense. Eventually, Frank and Lucy devise an incredibly convoluted plan to freeze Bannister so that he'll die and eventually revive him later. That way he can turn into a ghost and confront Death. This leads into a chase scene and an incredibly bizarre scene with Dammers that never goes anywhere until finally Bannister catches Death. And it turns out that Death is Johnny Bartlett?
That guy's like you frighten hell.
I got out, Frank. I've been carrying on the good work. Got me a score of 40.
Okay, so many questions. Why was he wearing the Death hood? No one can see him. And why the hell was he making roaring noises the whole time if, from this point on, he just uses his regular voice? No one can hear him. The obvious explanation to both of these things is that it was just a fake-out. They wanted to give you no possible chance of guessing who Death was, so they gave you no reason to think that Death was anyone. Johnny Bartlett hadn't even been an issue in this film for over an hour before this reveal. I fucking hate that, man. That is so cheap. They deliberately set all of this up so that we won't figure out who it is, and when we do figure out who it is, it makes no sense at all. But wait, it gets worse. It turns out that Patricia, the poor girl who was locked in the house by her mom, was actually working with Johnny Bartlett this whole time. She in fact has his ashes in an urn, and that's how he keeps getting out. What? So then what the hell was she running away from him screaming in the opening for? Once again, just to fake out the audience. And then Lucy goes to this woman completely unaware that she's actually a villain, but remember, Patricia still has her mom keeping her in the house in the first place, so all of a sudden, she excuses herself and hacks her mom to pieces. Why the fuck didn't she just do that in the first place? If she's perfectly capable of killing a defenseless old woman, then just do that. What was keeping her here? And it also turns out that she and Johnny were the ones that killed Frank's wife. I don't understand. Did these characters know each other? Johnny seemed to know Frank in the scene where it was discovered that he's deaf, but the film never says how. And Patricia was with Johnny when Frank's wife was killed. How the hell did she know they were gonna crash into that particular spot? Was she following them or something? I can't... What? This whole movie is one big plot hole. So the whole damn thing comes down to them having to get Bartlett's ashes that the mother for some reason let Patricia keep to consecrated ground. And of course it turns out to be the chapel in the very hospital that Bartlett and Patricia shot up. So they eventually get there while being tailed by Bartlett, Patricia, and Dammers? Oh, come on! How did he know they were gonna be there? They abandoned him in a cemetery a million miles away! But no, he's not gonna go back to the place where he knows Frank's body is frozen, the place where he knows Lucy has to return to. He's gonna go to some random abandoned hospital in the middle of butt-fuck nowhere. I'm sorry, fuck you, man. So Bartlett gets out, but it doesn't matter because he doesn't do anything. Patricia does all the killing all of a sudden. She strangles Frank to death, but of course he just comes back as a ghost, and oh, what the hell? They can just yank people's souls out now? He didn't even know how to walk the last time he was a ghost. How the fuck did he know to do that? That's it. I'm done. The two get sucked into hell, and everyone lives happily ever... Well, everyone lives ever... You know what? Everyone lives. The end. It's really quite amazing how any of this ever made it to the final draft, if you think about it. The problems are so numerous and obvious, it's almost like they had 5 different screenplays that they cut and paste together, and none of them are related to one another. All of the story elements are just completely incompatible with one another. But at the very least, it's fun to dissect, so on this terrifyingly bad movie note, this is Confused Matthew wishing all of you a safe and happy Halloween.